You know that feeling, right? You wake up on Monday, you're energized, totally convinced this is the week.
The week you finally stick to it.
Exactly. That new habit, waking up earlier, maybe hitting the gym or just, tackling that huge to-do list.
Yeah.
But then by Tuesday, maybe Wednesday rolls around and poof, the momentum's kind of gone.
That snooze button starts looking really good.
It becomes a siren call. And the gym bag, still packed, untouched. Suddenly, one more episode of that show seems way more appealing than your best laid plans.
It's such a common cycle. Really frustrating.
It is.
And it feels like it's more than just, a lack of willpower. It's this pattern, almost deeply ingrained, where what we want right now just overrides our longer-term goals.
Yeah.
Behavioral scientists actually have a term for it, the intention-action gap.
Yeah.
Basically, knowing what you should do doesn't always mean you actually do it.
Right, exactly. And today, we're diving into the art of daily discipline. But look, we're not talking about some super rigid, military-style thing here.
No, definitely not.
Instead, we're looking at it through this really human lens. It's a conversation between two people, Ria and Kabir. And they're just navigating their own daily struggles. They stumble a bit, they learn.
And they find these surprisingly simple ways to stay consistent, which is really the key, isn't it?
It is. What's great here is how their chat reveals that discipline isn't some magical trait you either have or you don't.
Right. It's not innate. It's actually a skill.
Yeah.
And you build it not through some heroic, massive effort, but more through understanding your own behavioral triggers.
Yeah.
And setting things up for small successes.
Yeah, creating the right environment. So our mission today is basically to pull out the most important nuggets from their experience, give you a bit of a shortcut maybe to understanding how these tiny, almost unnoticeable daily actions can build real momentum and genuine motivation.
Yeah, get ready for a few aha moments.
Totally, because it might just completely change how you view discipline, maybe shifting from seeing it as something restrictive to something that's actually, freeing.
We'll unpack why perfection is often the enemy of progress.
Totally. And how those tiny habits can lead to really big shifts. And crucially, why discipline, far from being this punishment, can actually be this profound act of self-respect.
Which then carves out space for creativity and growth in your life.
Yeah.
It really moves beyond the usual self-help talk, I think.
It does. It gets into the underlying psychological stuff that actually makes consistency achievable.
Yeah, the how.
Okay, so let's unpack this conversation. Ria kind of kicks us off, right? And she voices this struggle that I think resonates with, probably a lot of us. She says to Kabir, I've been trying to wake up early for weeks now, but I just keep hitting snooze. I feel like I need more discipline in my life. It's that immediate jump to, I need more discipline. It's this big abstract thing she's missing.
That's such a perfect example, isn't it? It's what happens when we see discipline as this grand character trait. When we fail at one specific thing, like waking up early, we tend to internalize it as a flaw in ourselves. Oh, I lack discipline. But what Ria's actually experiencing isn't a lack of desire. Not really. It's more of a conflict between a new thing she wants to do and a very, very comfortable old habit.
The snooze button habit.
Exactly. The brain loves conserving energy, right?
Right.
So hitting snooze, even though it works against her goal, feels like the path of least resistance in that moment.
That makes so much sense. So it's not some kind of moral failing on her part.
But not at all.
And Kabir's response, it immediately shifts the perspective. He tells her, I get that. Discipline isn't just about waking up early. It's about consistency. Even small habits like making your bed or planning your day can build momentum. He doesn't just dismiss her struggle, but he reframes it straight away. From the outcome, waking early, to the process.
Yeah.
Consistency.
And using these almost laughably small examples like making your bed.
Right.
Kabir's insight there is actually quite deep. He's tapping into this idea of a minimum viable action. He gets that the challenge isn't the size of the habit itself. It's the regularity and the signal that action sends to your brain. Making your bed isn't just about being tidy.
No.
It's about starting your day having already completed a task, a small win. It creates this tiny but important psychological cue that says, okay, I can follow through on what I intend to do.
Okay.
And this initial success starts building what psychologists call self-efficacy, which is just your belief in your own ability to succeed at something. Ria, probably feeling discouraged, likely has low self-efficacy about waking up early. Kabir's approach directly targets rebuilding that belief.
Right. It's like that tiny ripple that can eventually grow into something much bigger. So Ria then describes that feeling. We all know the midweek collapse.
Oh, yeah.
She says, true, I start with good intentions, but by midweek, everything falls apart. I skip workouts, forget my to-do list, and binge watch random stuff. That's the classic scenario, isn't it? That initial burst just fades.
It really highlights another key concept, decision fatigue. Think about it. Early in the week, you're maybe fueled by that fresh start feeling. You've got higher mental energy for making good choices.
Your Monday motivation.
Right. But as the week goes on, you make tons of decisions, big and small, and it just depletes your cognitive reserves. Your willpower, which is actually a finite resource.
It runs out.
Pretty much. By Wednesday or Thursday, it's significantly lower. So we naturally gravitate towards things that require the least mental effort, like passive TV watching, instead of pushing through a workout or tackling that list. It's not a character flaw. It's just a predictable outcome of how our brains handle choices.
Okay, so if willpower runs out, just relying on it is basically setting yourself up to fail.
Kind of, yeah. It's not a sustainable strategy on its own.
So how do we break that cycle then? Kabir's next piece of advice really gets into this, and it feels less about brute force and more about acceptance. He says, that's normal. The trick is not being perfect. It's showing up even when you don't feel like it. And then he gives his own example. I started journaling every night, just 5 minutes. It helps me stay grounded. This idea of showing up imperfectly, that feels really liberating.
It is. Because it fundamentally changes how you define success. Right. Most of us wait for motivation to hit before we act.
Yeah, right? Totally.
But Kabir gets that. Action often creates the motivation. His 5-minute journaling habit isn't about writing something profound every single night or even necessarily enjoying it every time.
Right.
It's about maintaining the ritual. The habit itself becomes the win, not the output. This helps build a process-oriented mindset instead of just focusing on the results. And that's way more sustainable long-term.
And Rhea immediately connects with that. She says, that sounds doable. I think I overwhelm myself with big goals and then get discouraged. It's that all or nothing thinking that traps so many people, isn't it?
Absolutely. That all or nothing approach is probably one of the biggest habit killers, when we set these huge, unrealistic targets, and then inevitably we fall short.
Which you probably will.
Right. Our brain reads that as failure, and that leads to discouragement, and often we just abandon the goal altogether. What Kabir is suggesting is shrinking that gap between the effort required and the feeling of success. Make the first step so tiny that failure feels almost impossible. It's a subtle but really powerful psychological trick.
Which leads perfectly into Kabir's next point.
Exactly. Discipline grows with small wins. And he shares another personal example.
Yeah, the reading one.
Right.
Right.
Like, I used to struggle with reading daily. Now I just read 2 pages before bed. It's not much, but it's consistent. Just 2 pages. It almost sounds too easy, like it wouldn't even work.
But that's precisely the genius of it. The 2 pages before bed strategy works because it's so small, it feels insignificant.
It triggers minimal mental resistance. But doing it consistently, day after day, week after week, doesn't just build the reading habit itself. It also keeps reinforcing that crucial self-efficacy we talked about earlier.
Okay, the belief you can do it.
Exactly. It's not really about the number of pages read. It's about proving to yourself over and over that you can follow through on an intention, even when maybe you don't feel super motivated. This buildup of tiny successes creates a really solid foundation, which makes tackling bigger habits later feel much less daunting.
And what's great is how Rhea immediately gets it and applies it to her own goal. She says, I like that. Maybe I'll start with a 10-minute walk every morning. No pressure, just movement.
She's not suddenly signing up for a marathon, right?
Yep.
She's committing to this manageable, non-intimidating first step. And that feels like a huge mental shift from where she started, feeling overwhelmed.
It really is. That's a classic example of finding the smallest possible action that still moves you towards your goal. A 10-minute walk, needs no special gear, minimal time, the barrier to entry is almost 0.
So that initial success helps build that positive feedback loop. It makes the next day's 10-minute walk feel even easier. And it makes the idea of maybe a longer walk or eventually more intense exercise feel less intimidating down the road. It's about building an identity, really, not just ticking off a task. She's shifting from, I should be someone who exercises, to, I am someone who moves their body daily, even if it's just for 10 minutes.
Okay, so we've got small wins, consistency over trying to be perfect, showing up even when you don't feel like it. But then Kabir drops what I think is the biggest aha moment in their whole chat. It completely reframes the entire idea of discipline.
This is a key moment.
He tells Rhea, and don't forget, discipline isn't punishment. It's a form of self-respect. You're showing up for yourself. Wow. That really flips the script, doesn't it?
This is where the psychological shift gets really profound. We often think of discipline in external terms, right? Associated with like deprivation, strict rules, maybe even feeling like penance for something.
Yeah, like something imposed on you.
Exactly. And that creates huge internal resistance. But by defining it as self-respect, Kabir turns it from this chore, this obligation, into an act of deep self-care. It becomes about honoring your own goals, your health, your well-being. It's like making a commitment to your future self, showing that you value yourself enough to put in that consistent small effort. This changes the internal conversation from, I have to do this, to I choose to do this because I value myself.
Yeah.
And that is an incredibly powerful motivator.
I mean, Rhea's reaction just says it all, right? She exclaims, wow, I never thought of it that way. I always saw it as something rigid and boring. And I think that speaks for so many of us.
Oh, absolutely.
We often connect discipline with a lack of freedom, like being forced to do things you don't want to do, a chore.
Indeed. That traditional view positions discipline as something that limits you. Like it's the opposite of freedom and spontaneity. And that perception actively creates friction inside us, making it harder to stick with anything. But what Kabir points out is that the initial conscious effort involved in discipline actually gives you a different, maybe more profound kind of freedom later on. Freedom from impulse, freedom from procrastination.
Freedom from that regret you feel when you don't do the thing you wanted to do.
Precisely. Freedom from acting out of alignment with your own values.
And this leads to Kabir's ultimate point about the benefit, which I find incredibly inspiring. He responds, nah, it's actually freeing. When you build discipline, you create space for creativity, rest, and growth. This just turns the whole concept on its head. Discipline isn't about making your life smaller, it's about making it bigger.
It's a crucial counterintuitive insight. How can discipline create more space? It sounds weird.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. When you automate some routine tasks or you commit to those small, consistent actions like we've been talking about, you seriously reduce that decision fatigue.
Ah, right. Because you're not constantly debating it.
Exactly. You don't have to argue with yourself about whether to read those 2 pages or go for that 10-minute walk. It just becomes part of your rhythm. And this frees up a huge amount of mental energy that you'd otherwise spend negotiating with yourself.
Okay.
And that liberated mental bandwidth, that's what you can then channel into creative stuff or deliberate, guilt-free rest or deeper personal growth.
Yeah.
Because your foundational needs and commitments are kind of handled. It's like structured liberation. It provides a framework, and within that framework, real freedom can actually flourish.
So what does all this mean for you if you're listening and maybe struggling to get started or stay consistent?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
It means the path probably isn't through some heroic, unsustainable burst of willpower. It's more likely through gentle, consistent action that's born from self-respect, not self-punishment. And Rhea really seems to grasp this by the end.
She gets there.
She concludes, okay, I'm inspired. Tomorrow, I walk. And maybe journal. Let's see how it goes. And then Kabir offers to check in with her, which builds in that really crucial element of accountability.
Yeah, subtly externalizing some of that willpower needed in the early stages.
Right. It's all about starting small, reframing how you think about it, and maybe having a little support along the way.
It's really a testament to the power of just shifting your perspective, moving from thinking of it as an external chore to seeing it as an internal value.
So we've journeyed through a pretty fascinating deep dive today, haven't we? Moving from that common frustration, missed goals, skipped routines, to hopefully a fresher, more empowering view on discipline.
Yeah, a lighter touch, maybe.
We learned that the real trick isn't about being perfect. Because let's face it, perfection often gets in the way of just getting things done.
It's the enemy of good, as they say.
Exactly. It's more about consistently showing up, even in those small, almost trivial seeming ways, like Kabir journaling for just 5 minutes or reading only 2 pages before bed. It's not about the size of the action,
But the commitment to the ritual itself, the consistency.
that unwavering commitment to the small, consistent ritual, that's the core.
And the core transformation really lies in understanding that discipline isn't some burden you have to endure. It's actually a powerful tool for self-empowerment. And it's fundamentally rooted in how you choose to treat yourself.
Precisely. Remember Rhea's big shift from seeing discipline as rigid and boring to suddenly realizing it's a form of self-respect, that it allows you to actually show up for yourself. And that's not just a nice sounding phrase, is it? It's a profound psychological pivot. It can totally re-energize how you approach your daily habits.
It changes the why.
It does. It's about building that momentum through those small, almost invisible wins, whether that's Rhea deciding on that 10-minute walk, or maybe for you, it's just making your bed first thing.
Small acts, big impact over time.
And ultimately, it's about creating more space in your life, more mental bandwidth for creative expression, more time for genuine restorative rest, and just more fertile ground for real personal growth.
It really empowers you to live more intentionally, doesn't it? Rather than just reactively. And that fosters this sense of agency, this feeling of being in control that can spread to all areas of your life. It just leads to a much richer existence, I think.
So here's something to maybe mull over for you, our listener. If discipline really isn't about punishment, but about respect for yourself and your time, what small, consistent action could you perhaps begin today? Not just to build a habit, but to actively create more freedom and more space for what truly matters in your own life. What's your version of the 2 pages or the 10-minute walk?
Yeah, what's that first tiny step?
Think about that, and perhaps just take that first tiny step.
That's all for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.